Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an honor to be here. I am very flattered that I am part of this faculty of such a, what I call a breakthrough program, and something that we need, something that we definitely need as Latinas, as women, as professionals. We need to empower ourselves more. And nobody can do that better than ourselves. I've had a very lucky life. I remember a dear friend, former mentor, boss, told me that it seemed like I had guardian angels all my life. I truly believe that is true. A little bit about me. I was born in Cuba. At the age of 12, came to LA. We didn't go to Miami, for which I'm grateful. Because coming to LA was a different perspective. And to be honest with you, it was an awesome experience. As a child, leaving your country of birth, coming to a new city with mom and dad and two brothers, and being the minority within the minorities. Because at that time, there were some Cubans that my parents knew and so forth, but most of our friends were not. And maybe that also forced me at an early age to have a different perspective as to who was going to be my friends, who are the people that are going to be influences in my life. And I have to say that I've never, since then, believed that I just had a group of friends that were all the same. My friends, when I have a party in my house, it's like a mini United Nations. And maybe it's a result of that experience. To this day, I feel that the sacrifice that my mom and father, my father passed away a few years ago, God bless his soul, that they made for me and my brothers to leave the country that they knew. My father was 50 and my mom was 40. To start again at that age, just because they didn't want to raise their kids under a regime that they didn't believe in, to me that is amazing. Leaving without a cent to your name, to start again, not speaking English. Neither one of them knew how to drive, and we came to LA. But what pushed them was the determination. They wanted something better for their kids. And to me, that still sticks. They're my heroes. Nobody will ever surpass my parents as my heroes for what they did. And I have the utmost respect for that because it was about believing in something. Believing in something and following through regardless of the sacrifice. And that's awesome. And there's nothing I can do today that would equate to what they did. Why? Because I've traveled the world. I know how to speak 2 languages, one with an accent, but that's who makes me. But that's me. That's what makes me who I am. But there's nothing that I can do, I think, except maybe think that I'm going to go live in Venus or Mars that would equate to the sacrifice that they made for myself and my brothers. And so I think that's part of what grounds me and what makes me who I am. So yes, my first 2 angels were my parents. The third angel that came into my life was a high school counselor. I went to high school in Gardena. I was a Gardena High alum. And it was a high school counselor that on my 10th grade said to me, you know, you have great study habits. You have discipline. And I think that you can go to college. That was totally unknown to my family. And so with the help of that high school counselor, I started focusing. And she helped me with the application process, with the familiarity to what it is to go to college, what the opportunities could be. And she's the one who guided me and my family so that I could come here to USC with a scholarship and study international relations for 4 years. So yes, I'm a USC Trojan, fight on. So you went to the other school? It's okay. I live by the other school, so that's okay. I love the other school too. And I was married to a man once that went to undergrad over there and graduate here, and he was confused. But anyway, so got to college, did that. At that time in my life, I thought what I wanted to do in my life was work for the State Department. I don't know, something. I wanted to be someday an ambassador to somebody, to some country. And I thought, State Department, but this is 1980, ladies. I spoke Spanish. I just graduated with a degree in international relations. If I had to apply to the State Department to go work there, and maybe I would have gotten a job, where would they have sent me? No. Central America or South America. And get what was happening in Central America and South America at that time? Wars. And I thought, no, that's not why my parents made all this sacrifice. Get an MBA and go work for a multinational company. And that's what I did. That was the first really strategic, I think, decision I made on my own without those guardian angels anymore, saying, this is what you should do. I knew that I wanted to work in international with the whole aspect of what it is to deal with people from all over the world and trade and business and so forth. So I thought, get an MBA, go together with your degree in international relations, go work for a multinational company. And 6 months later, I ended up at Mattel. I've been at Mattel 29 years. Wow. And yes, it's hard to believe that I started as a child at Mattel. At Mattel, prior to Mattel, I worked at an aluminum company in the sales department. And that's where probably I met my fourth angel. And he was the general manager. And somehow he took an interest in me. He thought that I did not just prepare reports to him. I prepared them and explained them and delivered it to him to see if he had any questions. I went off over and above to make sure that I was always on time. This man took a special interest on me and also guided me in a lot of ways. And one story that I have is he's the one who helped me once that I was in sales, young. I was selling titanium products to the aerospace industry. I didn't even know what titanium was prior to joining that. But it was a job while I went to school at night for my MBA. And one time I'm talking to the buyer of this aerospace company in Ohio, Eric Larson. I'll never forget his name. And Eric Larson complained to this gentleman that I spoke with a funny accent and he could not really deal with me. It was hilarious because Eric Larson had the funniest Southern drawl. So my boss basically helped me. And he says, don't worry about Eric. You're doing a fine job. Because I was a little bit worried. Oh my God, is this always going to get in the way? Do I need to go work on my accent? Do I need to go work on this? Because is this always going to be my label? That man told me, don't worry about it. There are some people who are going to have issues with it. but most of the people won't. So keep going. Don't stop being yourself. And my fifth angel was a woman I met at Mattel who was a Latina also of Cuban descent, who had come to the United States in 1965, also leaving everything behind to start all over again as a single mom. Her name is Astrid Autelitano. We are to this day very dear friends. This woman started at Mattel as a bilingual secretary in 1965. She retired in 1998 as president of the international division of Mattel. That's the type of woman that was my role model. She was my mentor. And I say that with a lot of pride because that woman had to prove herself. She took on that job as bilingual secretary because she needed to feed her family. And from then on, she kept going, improving herself. So imagine a woman in the late 70s, early 80s, as vice president of Latin America, dealing with all these customers throughout Latin America. And Astrid walked into a room, and you got respect, authority, kindness. She's the best boss I've ever had, and the toughest boss I ever had, because I never wanted to disappoint her. From Astrid, I learned a lot. How to be strong when you need to, and soft and funny and giggly when you can. We would lock ourselves in her office sometimes and tell jokes in the middle of the afternoon. But the next hour, we had a tough call, and we had to be dealing with an issue with a customer, and she could just navigate that with such ease that I said, I want to be that way. I want to be able to have the confidence to know when I can do one and when I need to do the other. Customer parties at Astrid's house were a riot. We had people from all over, from Argentina all the way to Central America. Every country was represented every time we had one of these meetings. Everybody had the utmost respect for her. When it came to business dealings, don't negotiate with her because she was going to demand only the best interest for the Mattel and for her. But she had the biggest heart also. And once in a while, you saw that in business negotiations when things were tough. But on a personal level, you always saw it. She taught me when I had to praise someone, to do it in the most public of ways. But when I had to reprimand someone, to do it in the most private of ways. If I had a big lesson from her, what's that? There are moments in your career where you're going to have to say, hey, someone, you're not meeting the expectations, or you're not doing the things as well as you should do. Well, you do that in private. You don't do it in front of, and you never embarrass anyone. And that I learned from her. And yes, I still believe I have angels fluttering their wings behind me as I go around, because I've been very fortunate. And my career at Mattel started in the business side, sales and marketing, a lot of emphasis in Latin America. I had that mentor, Astrid, to be my guide. I wanted to emulate her. But she always said, you have to do it in your own way. I could never be her. But I could take lessons on the things that I admire from her and try to do it my own way. And that's what she always reminded me. When she retired from Mattel in 1998, I was a little bit distraught because for 18 years I reported to her, oh, I knew she was at Mattel. And I had a big wake-up moment about a year later. A colleague of mine, I was working in Latin America, in the Latin American division at that time, and I was restructuring the region. We had had many agents and distributors represent our business, and we wanted to cancel them and put our own sales offices. So I had a lot of meeting with lawyers, internal lawyers at Mattel. And one of them, Elizabeth, a female, was in my office, and we were chatting about some contract that we needed to negotiate. And she randomly says, hey, by the way, do you keep up with Astrid? Do you see her? I said, oh, yeah. The moment she said that, I started saying, oh, God, yes, Elizabeth, I miss her, and I do see her at least once a quarter for lunch, but I miss her. I don't have anyone to go to anymore. When I feel that people are driving me crazy, I don't have that scapegoat that I can go to and say, help. And Elizabeth, I remember, this very sharp lawyer looked at me and said, you don't get it, do you? I said, what? I miss her. He said, no, get over it. Now you're it. You have to be that woman, that mentor for others. You had her for 18 years. Get over it. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Now you need to be the woman that people come to for advice, for help, for guidance. And to be honest with you, that was a huge wake-up call because I never saw myself as in that role up to that moment. And I said, remember thinking about it and saying, that's a huge responsibility. To be there for others, to be the one that is now listening to how people are driving others crazy and providing them counsel and guidance to deal with that. But that resonated with me because I said, you have to do this. You have to do this because you had that fortune all your life, of people looking out for you. And I took it on very seriously. From that day, I'll never forget. I remember saying, okay, I need to do this, and I'm going to do it. Whoever needs me at Mattel, my door would always be open.
That's true.
Thank you. I didn't bribe her to But I try to remember that. I've had good fortune. And it's my responsibility to share that. And 3 years more go by. Now it's 2002. I have a new boss leading Latin America. And it was a chaotic time because there was a lot of changes happening all over Mattel at that time. I'll tell you a funny story associated with that. Because there was a bully in the HR department who was, and this is not the boss that I had in 2002, but the one leading to 2002. He was also kind of a bully, a very macho man from Latin America. And he expected, even though I was a vice president, somehow he expected me to say, yes, sir. And we got into a big fight once because he raised his voice at me. And I would yell back to him. We were on the phone, and I says, I'm sorry, you're my boss, but you have no right to raise your voice at me. The HR bully then calls me. He says, I just got off the phone with your boss, and he says that you were disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, if you mean by disrespectful that I answer him and I challenge him on what he was saying to me, you're absolutely correct. And he said something to me to the fact like, oh, you should just get over it and maybe ask for a package and leave. I don't know where this phrase came out, but what I'm going to say is literally what I said to him. And yes, the Cuban in me came out a little bit. And I said, Tony, his name was Tony, don't mess with me. Remember, I'm over 40. I'm a Latina, which means I'm a woman. And if you push me hard enough, I'll come back with a black grandmother. I don't know where that came from. It could have been that Celia Cruz was my idol. I said, okay. It was a moment. It was one of those moments that afterwards you leave your body and you say, what? But I did say it. And yes, I had met Celia Cruz a few years earlier, so maybe it had something to do with it. But I don't know where that came from because I didn't rehearse that one. It just came out. Okay, that moment was also pivotal because I said, I usually am very good in defending others, but I was not so much about defending me. And maybe I did it in a very silly way, but that was my way of saying, don't mess with me. Well, they back off. My bad boss was eventually fired, and that's why at the end of 2002, I had a new boss. But now he wanted to do something. He wanted to move everyone who worked in the Latin American division to Miami. And maybe I'm allergic to the Cubans in Miami, but I didn't want to go to Miami. No, for very personal reasons, I could not move to Miami. Number one, I was married at that time, and my husband's business was based here in LA. He was self-employed, and his business was based here, so it's not like we could just sell, pack, and move, no. But number two was also very important. My father was very ill. And he was in and out of hospitals all the time. And I just did not feel that that was also a moment to go. So I said, I'm not going to Miami. Even if it means leaving Mattel. But I have to, it was about being very clear about what I wanted in my life. And uprooting my family, being away from that at that moment was just not on the cards. So I said no. I said, I'll leave Mattel, give me a package, I'll help you through the transition, give me a package, and then we'll go our way. It was about 2 months later that the head of HR, the human resource at Mattel, came and said to me, we don't want you to leave, and we have a job that we think that you will be perfect for. I said, okay, what? Bob Eckert had been our CEO for the last 2 years, and one of the big emphasis that Bob brought to Mattel was developing people. The whole notion of leadership development and really developing our talent. And they said, we need someone to tackle training the sales force globally. Because our talent is not where we need them to be. And because of your sales background, we think that you will be great at it. I said, okay, I've never done training. I've never developed curriculums, but why not? And then Alan, the head of HR, said to me, and we also think that you would be good to do the global diversity piece. And I said, okay, define diversity. What do you mean by diversity? Because the one thing I didn't want to do is compliance-related work. I didn't want to do affirmative action plans, none of that, no. If it was strategic in nature, if it was about how can we be a better company, I'm in. But so he defined it, and I said, and why me for that role? I can totally understand the sales role because I have a sales background. But why that? Because I'm a Latina? He said, no, honestly. It's because you know Mattel so well. I bought it. I like that answer. And so, almost by accident, because I never thought that my biggest passion would come out of the job that I now have, Vice President of Global Diversity at Mattel. I thought I loved sales. I thought I loved closing the deal with customers. No. I found my passion now, what I do. I want to make Mattel better by being a more inclusive company. And I think I can do it. Little by little, changing perspectives one at a time, maybe. But I do believe that if we take global diversity, how we define it, the diversity is everyone. As a global company, Mattel is now about 52% of our business is outside the US. But that's the fastest growing part of our business. In order for us to continue, we need to have global perspectives with the company. But we're pretty much still a US-run company. So we need to balance that. And we're doing a lot of things, and Pam can tell you about it, that it's going in that direction. But it's taking us a long time to get here. I remember the first thing I challenged when came into this role was our board of directors. I said, why do we have a board of directors where every single one of them is a US-based executive? We want to grow internationally. Why shouldn't we have people that represent the Asian markets, or the Latin American markets, or the European markets on our board of directors? They open networks for us. And that's the type of thinking that is not about, I want to have 51% female. No, I just don't want the quotas. I want to have the people that are right for us in what we want to do. And I also want to make sure that Mattel is seen by our communities, by our consumers, as a company that cares about them too. So yes, in many ways, I found what I always wanted to do. And it's funny how I got here. But I have a boss today who gives me total freedom to do the things that I propose. And yes, what you said earlier, Jasmine, is so, I have the freedom to say, I want to take a chance with Jasmine Davis and her negotiation class and bring it to Mattel. I want to pilot it. Yes, I can do that. Maybe I've earned it with time, the credibility that I do have. But also, I am very tenacious, and I don't give up. And I think that people also people have realized that, yes, I have a vested interest in my well-being, in making sure that I'm happy in what I'm doing, but everything that I do has a higher cost. I want Mattel to do well. And I think that people know that. That it's not just about me. And maybe that's part of being the Latina that I am. That I want to be, yes, I want to take care of me. I want to make sure that I'm happy, that I have the title, that I have the salary, that I have all that. But none of the decisions that I make are only selfishly made. There always has to be a bigger calling. Last year, Oh, and by the way, I know I'm talking a lot. If anyone wants questions or add something, please raise your hand, and I'll make sure that I give you time to ask me any questions that you want. I know that I tend to go.
You're Latina, what do you expect?
Exactly. Yes. Last year, well, before that, when I took on the role of diversity, VP of Global Diversity at Mattel, one of the things that I noticed right away was our lack of presence with the communities, even here in LA. The Hispanic community, the African American community, we were there. You know, we're this headquarters in El Segundo, California. People knew that, yeah, Mattel is one of the big corporations in the city, but were we en el barrio? Were we with the community? No. We were almost like, oh yeah, they're the ones that make Barbie over there and they're by the airport. I wanted to make sure that we were relevant within the communities. But at the same time, I wanted to be very strategic about how we showed up in the communities. And also I wanted to be very strategic about not being accused of having my own interests only on the table. And one of the things that I did early on was get engaged with African American organizations, not Latino organizations. And don't blame me for that. It was strategic, the reason that I said that I did that. I didn't want to be just supporting all the Latino organizations and for them to say, oh, she's doing that because she's a Latina. I wanted to develop myself more, get familiar more with the community that I knew about, but was I part of that community? No. And that's when I joined the Los Angeles Urban League as a board member. It was a way to develop myself. It was a way for me to learn more about African Americans in the city. And what I learned through them was the need that we have to break the barriers that exist between the two communities. And I said to the Urban League team, let's work on this. There's no point of us having animosity against each other. We all have the same interests. We all have the same needs. Let's work together. So I made a big part of my job when it comes to the community about breaking those barriers and creating those alliances with African American leaders. Because I see that it's a benefit to all of us to do that. Yes, recently, do you see me more involved with Latino type of organizations? But because I didn't want the label to be put on me. Oh, she's just doing that because she's one of them. Yes.
What happens if you were put that label, she's just doing that? Because some people could say, well, African Americans do it for African Americans. They don't care about the label. They're helping their community. How do you get pinned in the company? I mean, do they put you in the category and you can't get out of that after?
Kind of. Yes. You have to be more strategic. I want to be sure that yes, we have issues of representation that could be improved for all minorities at Mattel. I didn't want to be the one, I just did not want to be the Latino outspoken. I wanted to speak on behalf of everyone. And I wanted to be seen as that. I wanted to be seen by the Asians, by the African Americans, by women, by the gay groups, by everybody, that they could count on me to be their spokesperson. Because I've seen too many people, colleagues of mine in other companies who have the role that I have in their companies, focusing only on what's comfortable for them. So to be honest with you, I learned from peers in other companies not to follow that. I didn't want to be labeled that way. Because one of the things that I say about this job is, the moment you exclude anyone from the conversation, especially white men, because to me, they're part of the diversity mix, just like everyone else. The moment you exclude someone, you fail. I am so black and white when it comes to that. There's no gray area for me. If you want to talk about representation of women, and you only talk to the women, you don't talk to the white men about what's going on, and why should they care about this, you're never going to get anywhere with that attitude. You need to be inclusive, and you need to include everyone in that conversation. It is more difficult to include everyone, because now you need to come up with a sales pitch to each of them as to why they should do this. But if not, you're labeled as, oh, she's la Latina loca.
Why loca?
Oh, that's the Cuban in me. We put loco to everything.
No, we're loca, period.
We're locas. Yeah. And I think that little by little, I started building that reputation that, yes, when I talk about diversity, I talk about everyone. And I think, and Pamela can tell otherwise, but I think that I do have that reputation at Mattel, that I am the head of global diversity. I'm not the Latina interested only on Latino issues. And I wanted to make sure that that was how I was being defined. I don't know if my approach was the right one in how I did it, but I feel comfortable that today I am where I need to be when it comes to that. Last year, to segment as to why I found my passion 10 years ago in this role, last year I participated in this leadership class outside of Mattel. And one of the things that we had to do was write our vision of ourselves. Sounds easy to do. Because if we get it right, everything that we do, everything that happens and that we do is based on that. And you feel that if you're based on that, you're grounded. So I came up with a vision. My vision is, and it goes back to who I am and everything that I've learned through my life. But my vision says, I want to be a source of inspiration and a resource to underprivileged youth, especially young women, to help them find their dreams and achieve them. Everything, it took a little wordsmithing to get it to there, but that's who I want to be. That's what defines me. It might sound arrogant that I say that I want to be a source of inspiration, but I don't think so. Because I want to tell kids that I did not speak English at the age of 12. That I had people helping me along the way, and that's why I had those resources helping me. So I want to be that resource to others. Because I think that we all have dreams. And sometimes all we need is a little push to tell us that it's possible. And I had that luck throughout my life. I had people telling me that it was possible and showed me the way to get there. And that's why, yes, I want to be that source of inspiration because I want kids to know that they can do it. But I also want to be a resource I want to help them. I want to be that mentor whose office is always open. I want to be the one that goes out to schools and tells kids that it's possible. I want to make sure that Mattel is investing in scholarships to kids that are needed and that are worthy. But they might not come to our attention just because we're not in the place at the right time. So I want to make sure that we're that. And with the employee resource groups, which Pam is the president of the Latino one, I do that. I want to empower them to be the role models. They go out in the community to show kids. I want them to be the mentors for new employees that come into Mattel. To say, yeah, maybe we don't have 50 Latino vice presidents right now, but let's work on developing that talent for the future. So that's why I found this passion in the work that I do. And that vision that I had to create resonates with me because I found my dream job. And I want to continue this role of diversity. I want to continue to be defining what diversity is and breaking barriers. Because it was what you were presenting, you said something about caring and showing that caring side of you. I just recently read an article from McKinsey and Company saying that what employees want most of anything from their employers is for their employees to show that they care about them. You want to increase productivity for any team? Show that you care. Show that you have a heart too. And I'm sorry, ladies, but who has the bigger hearts than us? I think that is our secret weapon in many ways. And when you mentioned that, it resonated and it triggered me to that thought. It's okay to show that we care. Doesn't have to mean that we're taken advantage of or anything. Because there's one quote, I love quotes, but there's one quote that always stuck with me, and I think it was my ex-husband who taught me this. We met, by the way, here at SC. But he used to say, people mistake kindness with weakness. Don't ever do that. Just because you're kind doesn't mean you're weak. And actually it takes a lot of strength to show kindness and to be kind. But most people, unfortunately, mistake it. And so never, never, never be afraid to show your strength. And actually, kindness could be a great way to show our strength. And I do that. Don't mess with me, don't cross me. But my natural way of dealing with people is with kindness. It's only when they show me otherwise that the bull, I'm a Taurus, comes out. And yes, I can be a bull in a china shop. But I prefer not to go there. I said quotes have a important, since when I was a young girl, my father always read Reader's Digest in Spanish, Selecciones Digest. And my favorite pages were the quotes pages. To this day, I love quotes. I got an original to share with you. Don't live somebody else's truth. Find your truth and live it. Find that truth, what is authentically you, and never shy away from it. Be you. Find your truth. What is the passion that drives you? What is that thing that motivates you? Find it, and don't let anyone stop you from being that. Have I cried at work? Yes. Good? No, but I've done it. I've cried when in situations with bosses and in situations with employees. But it comes naturally to me. And, I'm the one who cries with Hallmark commercials on television. So yes, the tears are always in my eyes. But that's who I am too. It doesn't mean that I'm weak. It's just how I show it. This is how I show up. And it's okay. Yes, some people are bothered by it, but most people find it okay. And it was about, again, quotes, me and quotes. It was about 2 years ago that I read this quote from a French writer from the last century, Marcel Proust. This quote today is at the end of all my emails because it just resonated with me so much. And I'll share with you. It says, the greatest voyage of discovery would not be to travel to foreign lands, but to behold the universe through the eyes of another. That had a significant impact when I read that. Because it was the realization that I see the world very uniquely through my eyes. Every single experience up to now in my 55 years have led me to think the way that I do, which is very different from your way and your way. Nobody sees the world through your eyes, only you do. But in order to be better in this world, as a better boss, as a better leader, if we can just pretend for a second that I can see the world through your eyes before I make judgments, before I criticize, before I put a label on someone. Who am I? I see the world through my eyes. Every single experience, I'm not perfect. Just like everyone. And I say this to a lot of people in the diversity world. They want to make sure that we're living in a bias-free world. There's no such thing. We all have them. It's how we deal with them that matters. It's being aware that, yes, I can see someone walking down the street, and all of a sudden, a thought flashes in my mind, and it's a bias. Good or bad, but it's a bias. But the fact is, I'm aware of it. And that I don't make decisions. I don't make recruitment decisions or promotional decisions based on those things. That is, I think that if there's one thing that we can do to be better human beings, to be better leaders, is to learn that. That everything that we see is uniquely here. And that each of us has a way of doing it based on our own experiences. And let's just pretend for a second that I could see the world the way Pamela sees it. Or that she could see the world through my eyes. We would have a better understanding of each other if we just imagine that. Thank you.